A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey. It's a brand new day, a brand new week. How are you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigeria. And of course, to our viewers around the world. July 6, 2026. The month is running really fast. And the year as well. And for many Nigerians, I don't want to get religious with you, but you know, I've heard a lot of pastors said, I know what this second part of 2026 will be better than the first. But thank you indeed for joining us here in Lagos. It's a wet Monday morning. I'm not sure exactly where you are watching us from here in Lagos, but it's wet around where we are this morning. And it's been raining. We hear it's going to rain even more this year, Jeff.
Well, rain is nothing new to us, but those of us who live in Lagos, we know that this is the reality you have to face. We had the Honorable Commissioner for Environment, Mr. Wahab Tokumbo was here last week to explain some of the challenges that Lagos is facing. And one of the things he said to us is that there may never be a day where we will not have these incidents, because we're asking questions about, could there be a time when this will be resolved even better? But he said, to be very realistic, you know, what is happening along the coastal lines of West Africa is common to these countries. What can be done is to manage it a lot better. Whether Lagos state government is managing it well or not, that's a debate that the people will have with them. But for those of you who live in, especially on the island, and it's not a great time, because every time it rains now, all of the luxury feelings that those was our allergies on the island just disappears, because I've seen homes flooded and people literally complaining. We're happy. I don't think there's been any reported loss of lives. I stand to be corrected, but to that extent, we're grateful. But something has to be done in the management of our waters. I think we may have the Commissioner for Waterfront Development later on in the week to also explain to us their own part of the narrative. So if you live on the island, and some parts of the mainland, you may be prone to these things, but we expect government to do a lot more when it comes to the management of natural, maybe you can call this natural disaster, but not like the earthquakes and typhoons and the tornadoes of this world. But this is our own reality. We deal with flood, we deal with erosion. Those are the most common things we deal with. But what else are we tracking? The big conversation Kelly, has to do with the spending of government. I don't want to go neck deep into it. Some things are a bit technical, so I don't want to drive that direction. However, we're going to have that conversation extensively. But for those of you who missed it, the IMF had released a document some time ago, and people still go back to those documents to reference, you know, the spending of government. So in Nigeria, the debate is to where do we have a problem. In some parts, we agree that we have a problem. So government will generate revenue, government will spend the revenue, you know, and then sometimes there are deficits in this revenue. So Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the ADC, had done an article highlighting some of the things he saw. I think that should be page 5, Kelly, to page 5 of that particular document that talked about statistical discrepancy and referencing the size of those discrepancies to the size of our GDP, which came to about 8.8 trillion. And it says shadow budgeting, of the record spending, and even talked about illegal deduction from subnationals in terms of their FAC allocation, all of this marshalling up for the 2027 election. So it was talking between data with economics, or referencing data from economics to the political inference. Well, the federal government has actually responded through the Honorable Minister of Finance to say, no, that is not exactly what it is. So whatever discrepancies were, as at the time this report was released, some of those things were corrected with the repeal and reenactment of some of the components of previous budgets, like the 2025 capital component, which the president has promised that by March, we're not supposed to be having overlaps, but I think it was extended yet again. So that's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to go too technical. So the debate now is, are these monies missing, or are these money unaccounted for, or are these monies in places we can't trace, or are these monies spent extra budgetary through extra budgetary means, or these are just first-line charges or statutory transfers. So you need to understand the technicalities of how monies are managed as long as public fiscal policies are concerned. So we'll leave that to the person who understands, the expert. But I understand it, but I don't want to go too deep into it, so that I'm not doing the expert's work.
Yeah, we'll get to unpack that on the show this morning. But when I saw that article, I mean, you shared it with me, but the backlash on social media, I like the fact that it looks like Nigerians are really interested in what is going on with their spendings, their economy. And it's important we pay attention to these things beyond the numbers and all of that. So I saw the backlash, I saw the minister's response. In fact, his media aide, Mary-Ann Jukukon, a colleague of ours as well, who is now on the other side of things, posting that article there, or the statements from the Minister of Finance, Taiwo Yedele, trying to defend and asking the question, perhaps, is there evidence enough to substantiate these allegations or accusations? And I'm saying to myself, it's interesting how the government sometimes like to do selective, I don't know if I'll call it selective judgment. When the IMF praises your reforms, it's a good thing. In fact, you're happy, the World Bank, when they praise the economic reforms and your policies, you hail them. But when they criticize or make this kind of assessment, because that's what that article is, an assessment of some directors from the IMF, then it becomes a problem. And then you see the minister, trying to defend the government's and all of that. So, but I think it's a big question mark for this administration, facing these huge allegations of concerning our budgeting, and saying, look, there's some sort of spending or concealment somewhere. We don't know what exactly it is. We're going to ask through some of those questions to the experts on the show this morning. But it beats my imagination that I'm not sure what out-of-school children or Marjorie's 1.5 billion naira allegedly, I'm not sure the connection between that and building a road in Ogun State. That is what we're seeing in the body in that finding. So we're going to throw all of this to the experts this morning. On the issue of flooding, it's a Lagos thing, but even in parts of Ogun State as well. I'm glad that on the show this morning we're going to speak to the Commissioner for Environment as well. In places like Wawa, the Long Bridge, this is the time where every year some people have to relocate, and I imagine that has already started now, because I've had to do 1 or 2 reports on that axis along communities along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, where along this period, Isheri, Opik, it's flooded, and I'm wondering, don't we have a solution to this problem? Can't we fix this? There are houses in Wawa, for instance, that have been submerged, taken over by flood for many years now. In fact, those people had to abandon their houses as a result of flood. Some have gotten used to it, so when it gets to this period, they have developed some sort of coping mechanism. So it's a big question indeed for the Ogun State government as well as the Lagos State government. But while it was flooding here in Lagos and Ogun State as well, it was also flooding in Ghana, it was flooding in India, so it's not a Nigerian thing per se, but I think we have to find a way to find some sort of solutions to all of these challenges.
Yeah, fabulous. As a matter of fact, as we were just talking, that is the reason some of these issues that has been raised by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, whether it's right or wrong, or understanding of data and government spending, that's a different kettle of fish. I'm just happy that someone is on the toes of government, which is why we always advocate for the survival of the opposition. When the APC was in opposition, they were super vibrant. I think they still remain one of the biggest model of what opposition should look like. You can look at the excesses of their time. That's a different matter. But you cannot deny that they were vibrant. So when we see the opposition dying, whether by orchestration of government or orchestration, self-imposed orchestrated death by the opposition themselves, or a hybrid of both, we're not happy. We want vibrant opposition so that you sneeze, they have something to say. You cough, they have something to say. You laugh, they have something to say. Not ridiculous things, no. I mean, things like this, where they'll say, Tell us where this money went to. You can answer, oh, you misunderstood, or this is actually what happened. Tell us when this happened. We will continue to make a case for the survival of opposition. One day, this same APC will go to the opposition. We'll continue to make that. Yes, it's true.
I'm not sure. Some members of the APC will be happy to hear that.
It doesn't matter whether it doesn't matter whether they are happy. It's inconsequential to me.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean,
what happens? You can't be in power forever.
Absolutely.
So when some of us who are journalists and civil society organizations were making a case for the collective good, because things will continue to flip.
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, people will get tired and want another leadership. We don't know when that will be.
Yeah.
And when they get tired of that particular leadership, they'll bring another set of leadership. So it's going to be back and forth, maybe between two major parties, or with Nigeria's case, I do not know. So this is why we always say opposition must thrive, so that they will be one of the first line of action in terms of holding government to account. So for those of you who care to know, in terms of just for public information, when it comes to holding the executive to power, the first set of people that will do that is the National Assembly. So when the executive is doing certain excesses and nothing is happening, it's a failure of the National Assembly, the People's House. The next one, is the opposition itself, through that National Assembly. Then you have CSO. The media comes in like maybe the fourth line of almost like the last line. So we're together ensuring that your common wealth is properly spent and properly managed. But let's not forget, Kelly, as I was driving down, we're talking about these monies, whether they are illegally spent or extra budgetary spent. I just remember that those kids and those teachers are still in Orire.
Yeah.
They've not come out. So please, government.
More than one
I'm sure government is doing something. I keep saying that because there's no way government will just sit and lay by. Please, do something and let's get these kids out as soon as possible.
Jeff, I mean, the other major concern for me over the weekend is that two Nigerians, again in South Africa, lost their lives. And I saw the Nigerian government again trying to put out a statement there to condemn those killings. It's a big concern. I'm not sure how else we are able to tackle this. But beyond the statements, beyond the rhetorics, the Nigerian government, I think you have to do better. But just when I thought that, what, we have a national disease of forgetfulness, I also think that South Africa and the continents also, we have that disease as well on the continent. We forget. SA, you forget your history. You forget the fact that Nigeria played a very, very prominent role in regaining your freedom or getting your freedom. You forget the history books. You forget the fact that Nigeria had to nationalize the British petroleum as at the time in protest of what was going on in SA. You forget all of that. I'm just really concerned that we've had to do this over and over again, and Nigerians have had to lose their lives. Families perhaps left fatherless, left brotherless, and all of that. We have to do something about it, and I want to think that the Nigerian government also has to sit up. When US President summoned President Cyril Ramaphosa some months back, we had to rally around SA because we didn't like. It was more like, if something's happened to one, it's happened to all of us. But we've seen things happen to Nigerians. They cannot try this with some citizens. They cannot try this with an average American citizen. Why is it happening to Nigerians and others from the continent? So that's a big question mark for the current administration. So much to unpack this Monday morning, national issues and issues around the world. But we're back in just a moment as we get to take a look at the dailies. Please stay with us.